Love podcasts. So we're going to talk today
and hate nonsense
about the. Could we cut that out, please?
I've not even done a clap.
Woo! Good to be back.
Fabulous to be back.
Sean Hickey recently returned from holiday.
Yeah.
How was that?
And don't I look great for a freckle?
Yeah.
I freckle well in the sun.
Have you got any freckles?
Yeah, can you not see them?
Yeah, no. Laura, welcome back.
Thank you.
Been here the whole time, I think, actually.
Yeah, well, apart from yesterday, but yeah.
And but fresh from your move.
Yes, I was moving house yesterday, which was a fun experience. No hot water, but got it all fixed now, so it's great.
But it was on the hottest day of the year, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, so a cold shower wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
You were also away?
No.
Cool.
Should we just start talking about the Conservative leadership contest?
Let's go.
That's where we're going today. Busy month, August, isn't it? Because there's a lot going on.
There's so much going on.
Yeah. You've been, actually, Laura, you've been really busy.
Yeah.
You've been you've actually, sorry.
Me and Sam were the only people on the desk.
It's really nice of you to hold the fort. Maybe give a like if you enjoyed Laura's content. Give a dislike if you didn't.
If you noticed that we were all gone, let us know. If you didn't, don't let us know.
I actually don't think anyone noticed that we were gone. No one said anything.
Apart from, well, didn't Ollie say it? He said it in the podcast the week that everyone wasn't there.
Yeah, that he'd let everyone book all their holidays the same week.
Did he?
Yeah.
Mine was actually really sneaky because do you know what? So the booking holiday thing, we sort of did it democratically, didn't we? Where we all agreed when it would be fair for each of us to take a week off or whatever.
We just concluded that we were all taking the same week off.
We went for the same week. It just seems like the most sensible option. I think if anyone should have held back, it should have been Ed.
Okay.
Why did he need to see his family?
Did he see? No, he went to Italy.
With his family?
No,
he went on his own.
he was visiting friends. Yeah.
He did like a whole Euro trip thing. Yeah.
I don't
He
know
spoke about it on Monday's podcast.
Did he?
Yeah.
He just sat there. Nah, they're still talking.
Ed actually does listen to the podcast when he's not here.
Yeah, even when he's on it, he listens to it.
Yeah.
Like just to make sure
control.
that it's,
Okay, we've deviated. Look, let's go straight into Tory leadership. Okay, so we've got a few candidates. Let's run through them. 6 candidates. Tom Tugendhat, Mel Stride, James Cleverly, Priti Patel, Robert Jenrick, and Kemi Badenoch. Now,
Who'd
polling.
win in a fight?
Huh?
Who'd win in a fight?
Oh, that's a really good one,
A
actually.
physical fight.
Huh?
A physical fight.
Yeah, physical fight.
James Cleverly, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So is it like all 6 of them together
At once.
at once?
Okay, so let's go like this. So basically, let's say there can only be one clear winner at the end, right?
There can only ever be one.
Sure,
Yeah.
unless you're American. But they give medals out, don't they, to like the 11th place. Anyway,
Okay. Sure.
so I would say that the 6 candidates. So let's work on the premise that they're split into 2 teams, right? So we split them into the One Nation, so we split them into the more right of the party.
Ooh, that's more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot more fun.
Up for One Nation, we've got Tom Tugendhat and Mel Stride. I think we can also put James Cleverly in there, just about, even though he kind of straddles them both. On the right, we've got Priti Patel, Jenrick, and Badenoch. Okay, so who are we playing first?
Oh, so are you saying that this is going to be like a... So then we're going to have to start drawing like a bingo for who's fighting who.
So let's go for we'll do it like we're at the Euros. So Tom Tugendhat first versus Priti Patel. Who's winning? Priti. Okay. So we've got she's made the semis.
Into the next round.
Mel Stride versus Jenrick.
Is Mel Stride a tall man?
He's quite
He strikes me as a tall man. I think I'm going to go with Mel Stride on this one.
I'd go with Jenrick.
I would go with Jenrick too. Right, you've been overruled.
So it's Jenrick.
Jenrick. Okay, Cleverly or Badenoch?
Cleverly.
You know, that could be a final.
I think that could be a
Do you
either
think?
or.
Yeah, that's
Let's
a
leave them both then. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah, we do need both of them in, actually, to be fair.
So
otherwise
the next
it's just
round.
odd numbers in the next round.
Priti and Cleverly, who's winning?
I think that's still tight.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Is Cleverly a man of the martial arts?
I don't know, but he was a man once who joked about...
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Go on, you repeat the allegation.
Both of them.
Your favourite one. Do your favourite one.
He joked about date raping his wife.
Okay, so he's going straight through. Cleverly. Right, and then he did apologise for it.
So that's pretty out.
Jenrick and Badenoch.
Kemi.
Yeah.
I'm going
So
Kemi
that's
too.
what I was saying. It was going to be a final.
Okay, so
Cleverly and Badenoch.
the last round is Cleverly Badenoch. We've got to set a few ground rules. No one is allowed to spike one another.
What else?
Nothing below the belt. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
No hair pulling. Because then Cleverly has an advantage.
Yeah.
But then I guess she could pull his beard.
No, you can't get a
No.
grip on that. It's too short.
You might not be able to.
On my beard. Tweezers. Yeah, I think Cleverly's going to win. And I'm not going to tell you why.
I think Badenoch. You think Cleverly?
I think Cleverly.
I don't know.
You lose.
All right, okay, Cleverly.
So Cleverly
All
would
right.
win in a fight.
So we've-
Glad we did that.
Now that we've covered who would win in a physical fight, let's get into the actual parameters of what's actually offered. So the Conservative membership will vote on them. They'll all have their chance to set up their stall at Conservative conference. Is that right? And then they'll, around November, that's
November
when we'll find
2nd,
out.
yeah.
Yeah. What happens to Sunak then?
He just becomes a backbencher like Theresa May.
Yeah.
Well, he stays a backbencher though.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Do you think that he'll stay there?
I mean, he said that he would fill out the whole term, but how much do you trust his word on that?
I guess if like the full term ends up being like the way that the Conservatives were calling snap elections, so he's thinking, well,
Yeah.
maybe it'll be 18 months. It could be.
42 days.
Yeah.
Do we know where he's been on holiday or if he's been on holiday?
Sunak.
Yeah.
Well, the last time me and
We
him
do.
chewed the fat.
He was on holiday because he was quite quiet over the Elon Musk stuff. Let me see
I wonder
can
if he
find
was
it.
in California.
And see, what you could argue there
hunting.
is that perhaps it's not Sunak's place to speak on the Musk and Starmer bits. While your enemy is failing. Let
Well,
them.
so you don't want to upset a former or a prospective employer.
Exactly.
He was in California.
Was he in
Yeah, he
California?
was in
there's your
California.
answer. He's not going to stay the
Classic
full term.
Sunak.
Do you think he was there with Musk, just saying things? Like
He was just
Civil
like
War?
sat watching him speaking to Trump on his phone. It's like,
Yeah.
great work. Great work.
Liz Truss had a lot to say, though, didn't she, about the Musk intervention?
What was she saying? I don't think I saw her.
I don't think I
It
saw
was,
that. Maybe I've made that up.
No, I saw
No, you're
Andrea
right.
Jenkins was tweeting about it.
She said that she was Team Musk.
I've
That
got
was
it.
Yeah.
I'm appalled by the attacks on free speech in Britain and Europe. We can't be truly free without free speech. Good for Elon Musk and X for standing up to these bullies. But which is really interesting because you think, so she tweeted that yesterday and then later that day she was on stage giving an interview in which Led by Donkeys dropped
Did
a
the lettuce,
poster of a
yeah.
lettuce and she stormed off stage. Now, if you were a proponent of free speech, surely you must be pro all speech.
Yeah, that speech isn't very free, I would say.
Do they have a right
To pull a projector thing down in front of you. I think they do.
Do you think
And
that
it was epic as well.
maybe
So epic.
don't know. All right, Laura. Do you think it's animatronics? Maybe that's what she's got a problem with.
What, she was just unsettled by
She's
like,
scared
the
of
noise
projectors.
of the projector.
Maybe it startles her.
It's not funny.
Okay, so polling by Ipsos, taken earlier this month, so around August the 2nd, examined the attitudes towards the current race to become leader of the Conservative Party. James cleverly, narrowly leads, so both physically and with membership, leads with 18% of Britons believing he'd do a good job. Patel and Tugendhat follow close behind at 17% each. However, 44% say that Priti Patel would do a bad job, giving her a net approval rating of -27, the lowest of any candidate. Also important to know that 3 in 5 Britons say they don't actually care who is the Tory leader.
I think I'm one of those 3 in 5, to be honest.
Yeah, you're a Briton now, are you?
Touche.
Hey.
I've just done myself in there. Does it matter a whole lot? They're not going to be relevant for another year and a half, I feel.
Year and a half? You think that they will be relevant 2.5 years before the next election? Do you really?
There's going to have to be a time where they're going to be taken seriously again. I don't think now is that time. I don't think the end of the year is that time. There's a bedding in period the Labour are going to have for the next while where they're just going to get away with their majority. They can do whatever they want. They will get criticised by the likes of the Reform Party and the Conservative Party, but I just don't think the Conservative Party's objection to things is going to hold any water until the middle of next year, because people are still just done with them, you know.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because the thing is they'd have to kind of regroup and reframe themselves as the party, but they have the same 5 people that we've been familiar with for the last 12 years running for leader, because they didn't get any new blood in the election. They just lost a lot of seats. So I think it's going to be hard for them to present themselves as new, no matter who the leader is.
I am quite interested by Tom Tugendhat, though. Let me just hold on. Let me just rephrase that. There's potential with Tom Tugendhat because he's actually a candidate who was not in Rishi Sunak's cabinet. So he actually has the potential to distance himself from the mess of the last year or so, even though he was in ministerial positions before that. But look, our memories are short term.
I have here that he was the security minister.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not a cabinet position.
Yeah.
But that's like all of them were a minister of some description.
Well, look, there weren't, which is interesting, really, isn't it? Why is it that only the former ministers have come forward? I suppose there aren't that many left. There aren't many backbenchers left to sort of put themselves forward. Were you surprised that someone like Mark Francois or Suella Braverman didn't put their names forward?
I mean, Ross Kemp was backing Mark Francois, so he could have easily won in a physical fight.
In a physical fight, yeah, that's true. I would put him firmly in the semi-finals at least.
Yeah.
In that lineup, yeah.
What do you think about Suella Braverman not putting her name forward?
Well, at the time, it was kind of the whole thing of, is she going to defect to Reform? Is she going to stay on? Is she going to be a belligerent from the backbenches? I think it benefits her. I don't think she's going to defect to Reform. I think it benefits her in the long run, whether it is a book deal, an American tour, that kind of thing, to continue to be the voice of the lunatic right in the Conservative Party.
The voice of the lunatic right, do you think she's that?
I mean, I think that's what she's trying to be. I mean, that speech we saw at the RNC, but it doesn't make sense, I don't think, for these British politicians to be pursuing this American tour, because we saw Boris Johnson, who would arguably be the person that Americans would be most interested in, speaking to a half-empty room. So if he can't command attention or an audience in America, what on earth makes Suella Braverman think she could?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up America there, because actually there was a bit of polling that I don't think I've written down that actually said that most Britons don't even recognise the people who are on the Conservative leadership list.
Sick.
So that's agonising, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, surely they recognise Priti Patel is the most recognisable face in the 6th.
I believe that was actually in the polling, that Patel was the most recognisable face. Yeah,
but even at that, like, not for good reasons.
No.
It says a lot, though, doesn't it? That I guess our Westminster perception is that Kemi Badenoch is one of the biggest names on that list, or someone like James Cleverly is a huge name, and actually normal Britons don't care.
I think the thing is, it's Conservative Party members that will be voting as opposed to normal Britons.
Well, this is it. Like, all the polling so far is just the general public, isn't it? But then when it comes to, because we haven't had an open door hustings yet, sure we haven't. It's all been like just reported on what has been said in 2, 3 hustings, or have there been any?
Have there been any? I don't think there have. But I've been away for 3 weeks,
Yeah,
so
me
I don't
too.
know.
I think
Me
there's
too.
one this weekend.
Is there?
Yeah, but it's closed door.
Yeah.
Oh, closed door. But I mean, it would be closed door to us anyway. We'd,
Well, yeah.
we'd be voxing outside. Nothing new.
We're just going to have to go off what Ed says from the door.
Yeah. Let us know. I hope everyone's sleeping well. You know, when you actually think about this process of the Conservative membership voting for their next leader, at this point in time, it makes total sense that people who pay a subscription service to be a member of the Conservative Party and are still paying it, so they've gone really through thick and thin with them, they get to say who's going to lead the party in opposition. When you actually think about that process, that you're able to deselect or the Prime Minister is able to stand down as leader, and those, I think it was 160,000, wasn't it, the membership at the time, got to elect the next Prime Minister. I know that we have this system where you're not voting, when you vote in your constituency, you're not voting for the Prime Minister, you're voting for your local MP. Still, it's totally nuts that few people were able to elect the Prime Minister.
But also they elected a Prime Minister that was then deposed by the Parliamentary Conservative Party. You know, Liz Truss.
Would you feel disenfranchised as a Conservative member?
I feel like that was what Ed got out of the NatCon, the most recent one that he went to, was that a lot of people there were disenfranchised, pissed off that the Parliamentary Conservative Party is so at odds with the Conservative membership that they can spend 6 to 8 weeks campaigning for the vote of the Conservative membership, get into power, become the Prime Minister and the leader of the party, and then within a month be kicked out because the membership made the wrong decision, according to the Parliamentary Party, and then the Parliamentary Party effectively just put in their guy.
Yeah.
You know,
but you could argue, I suppose, that, like, the Parliamentary Conservative Party are maybe more in tune with the British public in general than the Conservative member base.
Yeah.
Would you base that off of the policies that they introduced towards the end of their administration?
No.
Which one stood out to you most? Maybe it was Boris Johnson's imperial measurements plan.
Big fan of that.
Put the crown back on the glass, I say.
They
Great
actually
idea.
got it bang on with the pothole stuff. I wonder if Sunak had been quicker to get that £9 billion into filling all the potholes around the country, whether they would have won the election.
A blue wave. The smoothest roads in the Western world.
Sometimes I cycle over Moorgate and I think that I'd vote for anyone who resurfaced that road. But I'm a cheap vote.
I mean, and that's what constituency politics is, you know. Like, as you say, you vote for your MP, it just so happens that your MP may become the Prime Minister of the country. But it is things like that, like potholes, like the swimming pool, like whatever.
We
Whatever
should fill
local
all of the
issue.
swimming pools. I do. That's like
Concrete over every one of them.
Did I make this up, or was there a point in time when we were embarking properly on nuclear and they were looking at like disused swimming pools to put like nuclear waste?
Really?
I don't know if I've totally made that up
Who
or if
would-
I remember that from like hearing it on the news as a child. I don't know. You definitely didn't have this issue in Scotland.
So it isn't like, it's not recent Conservative
No,
proposals.
this would have been when I was like a child.
Right, okay.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, it wouldn't have been recent. All right.
Like, you're not 10 years old, so that, like,
Yeah.
can we cut that? That's so dumb.
No.
No, I'm getting rid of that.
Absolutely not.
I'm
Leave
getting rid of that.
Leave it in audio only. Right, what do you make of Priti Patel, Laura? Do you think that she's got a vying chance?
I think she's definitely probably the most divisive figure of all of them, and like we were saying, the most recognizable as well. I think she plays. She's not so far right as Suella Braverman that I think she could capture a bit more of the moderate vote as well if she takes that kind of law and order approach that, well, she was quite heavy-fisted with it when she was Home Secretary. So I think she could appeal to that. But I mean, Tom Tugendhat was going after the law and order line in his speech, which was the first that we've heard from any of these candidates, where he was saying that the riot should have been confronted earlier with an overwhelming police presence, which I'm not quite sure what he meant by that, and also how effective that would have been.
She wanted to recall Parliament.
Yes, she did.
Which seems nuts to me because I don't remember a time when she ever advocated for recalling Parliament over the past few years. Suddenly she wants
It's crazy what opposition does to you, isn't it?
She wants a parliamentary clip, yeah. I think that...
Clip me up, you cowards!
I was looking through her Twitter feed this morning and I was looking... She's been tweeting a lot about immigration, which you would expect her to do because she's more on the right of the party, and the battle between the three of those, Patel, Jenrick and Badenoch, is going to be fought on immigration and who can reduce it, right? But I was really surprised that she'd been tweeting multiple times about how she'd actually managed to curtail immigration because she had limited the number of... Well, she'd put a stop to EU free movement. And it was like...
So you stopped legal migration?
Yeah, and it was sort of like, okay, but net migration last year was 700,000. And look, let's leave all of the morality and the discussion about immigration aside for one moment. If your sole role is you've been instructed by the PM or by the public, your voting public, to curtail immigration, if you're looking at a net figure of 700,000, I wouldn't say that you've achieved. Because she was in Johnson's cabinet when Johnson was using all of those, the sort of post-Brexit freedoms, right, to lift the caps. So he lifted the caps on immigration while closing EU freedom of movement.
Yeah.
That's not particularly conservative.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting as well in her campaign, or once we start to get a clearer view of what the Conservative membership thinks of the candidates, whether or not they see her as yesterday's woman. Because the thing that you heard it bandied about in some of the videos that we've done before, that like people weren't happy, some members of the Conservative Party were not happy with Boris Johnson leaving the party. Some wanted him to return to the front line of the Conservative Party as well. By that standard, you kind of assume that the people who were close to him at the time are still regarded in a positive light by those people. But when the narrative is shifted, like the way Priti Patel was talking about the riots, for example, was comparatively very reasonable. When you look at someone like Robert Jenrick saying that we should criminalize people saying Allahu Akbar, that I wonder if the party membership has moved on to that point to being to regarding that as a reasonable view of riots and public order and this kind of thing, and just seeing someone like Priti Patel as a leftist at this point. I think that's going to be a very interesting part of it, to see how far to the right the membership has shifted in the last 2 or 3 years.
I guess, though, all of it is both Patel, no, actually all three of them, Patel, Jenrick and Badenoch, seem pretty fair weather on immigration because their goalposts have moved throughout time. Like Badenoch, there was a speech that she gave in Parliament. She gave a question, I think it was from the backbenches, where she was talking about, I think she was thanking the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson at the time, for lifting the cap on student visas. And now she's one of the biggest proponents or advocates of limiting the number of students who can travel here with their dependents. Robert Jenrick, he resigned as immigration minister over parts of the Rwanda plan, and now he's one of the biggest proponents of the Rwanda plan. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then Patel, again, she wants to cut the number of people immigrating here, but when you were Home Secretary, you were working with Boris Johnson to lift that cap. So it doesn't, if you're a Conservative voter, unless you've got sort of perhaps a lot of them have a goldfish memory, so this might be quite helpful for them. But if you're actually tracking who has been consistent on the points that you care about, none of these actually match up to what was promised, if that makes sense.
I wonder if Priti Patel will benefit not only from being distanced from Sunak, like Tom Tugendhat is, but also might, like Boris Johnson, I think, remains quite a popular figure within the Conservative Party, even though Partygate unfolded as it did. I think there's almost like I don't know if nostalgia is the right word, but for the sort of leadership that Boris Johnson had. And I wonder if Priti Patel being linked with him, if they're just going to remember the good times and not the bad.
No, I think there really is a nostalgia. I think that's the perfect word. There's there's a sort of the golden era of Boris Johnson when he was travelling up and down the country on that big red bus, and his it was his speeches.
Yeah.
His speeches were, okay. That just before the election, was it 2 nights before the election, the Conservatives held that event in the Imperial War Museum. Rishi Sunak gave this speech. It was the last speech to be given. And to say that there was no applause would actually be too kind to him.
It was like they got the running order wrong and put the warm-up back last. Right.
Boris Johnson walked out to a rapturous applause. This man could hardly get to the podium. People were clambering over each other to try and get a glimpse of him. People were leaning. It looked like the Pope when he's in the mobile and or at Lord's. Like people were trying to touch him, and so I think you're right, there is a nostalgia for him. And by virtue of Patel having served in his cabinet and also being did he give her the Dame?
Yes,
He must have. Yeah.
Who else?
Resignation honours, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, by virtue of that, then, and she stayed very loyal to him as well.
Well, this is what I'm saying is I wonder how much she's going to tie her campaign into that. I wonder if he's open to endorsing her as the candidate. But it's also...
I didn't even think about that aspect of it, who Johnson endorses.
Yeah. But it's also... I think it's how all of the other candidates interact with her when it starts to become, when it's all 6 of them on a stage at a hustings. If it's a Badenoch and Jenrick pile-on against Priti Patel of this kind of thing of, I don't know, like, we had to make the hard decisions because you failed to do them when you were the Home Secretary or whatever it might be, right? That's what I think is the interesting part of it. And also whether that leaves the door open for people like Tugendhat and Cleverly to kind of just float in under the radar while everyone else eats themselves.
I guess the favourite before she lost her seat was Penny Mordaunt. And she is from the left of the party. She's more One Nation. She's even more left-wing actually than any of the 6 that have made it through to the competition. You could, I mean, the argument there would be that maybe the membership are looking for a softer leader. So maybe they will pick from the One Nation camp rather than the Reform adjacent.
The MPs get a chance they select 4 that will go to Conservative conference. So I wonder, of the parliamentary party, which 2 are they going to want out and want to not put in front of them? Because they might try and get rid of the most right-wing to not put them in front of the rest of the party.
Well, they'll go tactically, won't they? So I think that this One Nation and the right-wing camps, I think that MPs will strategically, they will attempt, they will endorse whoever they know can knock out the favourite. So I can imagine that they would quite like to knock out Tom Tugendhat because I think that he could possibly be favourable among the membership, particularly because he's been so strong on Ukraine. You turn up to the Conservative Party membership with your Ukraine badge, a list of all the speeches that you've given in Parliament and how you'll push to make sure that Europe stays safe. I think that, you've got a winner there compared to someone like Jenrick.
Yeah.
Has Jenrick been strong on Ukraine? Would he have been the immigration
minister? Well, it wasn't in his remit.
No, but would he have been the immigration minister when they opened
I don't think so.
No.
Because when is that? That's 22.
He might have been. Shall I have a look?
Yeah.
You talk amongst yourselves. Go on, Laura.
I mean, James Cleverly was Foreign Secretary, so he could.
He was Foreign Secretary during the...
Yeah, wasn't he?
It's Boris Johnson era is Ukraine. Was he? No, he wasn't Foreign Secretary. Boris Johnson's Foreign Secretary was Dominic Raab?
No, not. But he was Foreign Secretary while the invasion of Ukraine's been going on, rather than
Sure, yeah. Sorry.
Because I was thinking purely about who opened the floodgates to to help people.
Yeah, the Homes for Ukraine.
The Homes for Ukraine scheme. Yeah. That's what I was trying to work out. Who was the? We should probably look that up before we come down here.
Yeah, they do say a week is a long time in politics.
2022 to 2023.
So it may have been.
He may have been.
And we'll leave it at that. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. What's it to you?
I mean, James Cleverly was being quite tough on illegal immigration. when he was talking about the highest day of channel crossings, which was Sunday since the Labour government took charge. He said, since Labour have ditched our deterrent, which is the Rwanda plan, more and more boats are crossing the channel with more and more people on them. Which is interesting because the highest day of crossings this year happened before the Labour government were in power. So it happened under Conservatives and under the Rwanda plan. But he's forgot to mention that.
Well, he actually did a really good comment piece on the Monday evening. It was great. He basically explained that channel crossings had come down under his watch. So, you know, when we say things like that was the third highest number of channel crossings this year, the highest under Labour. And as you just pointed out, that means that 2 of those were under the Conservatives. I don't understand how this gets through a sub-editor, because that's a pure, at least you must have some kind of comment.
Superlatives are king in tabloid media.
Yeah, but you must have some sort of you should have a journalist next to it who can say things like, look, actually, that's not true. Just to let you know, actually, the crossings didn't come down. And he also said, oh God, he had some really great quotes. The Labour Party's rhetoric has encouraged people smugglers. What are you talking about? There's no indicator that ditching the Rwanda plan has encouraged people to travel. I think if you were going to make some kind of sociological assessment on the rise in number of people who are crossing the channel, you could possibly say people smugglers, it wouldn't be, I think we should go to Calais and actually find this out for ourselves, but it wouldn't be inconceivable to me that people smugglers are saying they are going to start sending people to Rwanda. If you want to travel, you must travel now. You must make the crossing now. And that is encouraging people to take that really dangerous journey rather than them saying, well, Starmer, you really think the smugglers are sitting in Calais saying Starmer's a bit of a soft touch? When he was DPP, he was a bit soft.
Well, this is
Come on.
There were all those stories when the Supreme Court knocked down Rwanda, weren't there? That I think it was GB News and the Telegraph and the like that were reporting that people in Calais were laughing and jeering after the result of the Supreme Court came through, as if that happened. But also I think there's a far more simple answer to it that could be something along the lines of there are a lot of people crossing now because the weather is good, because it is comparatively the safer time to be crossing the channel rather than in winter time.
Don't say something that is sensible and obvious because they can't compute it.
Yeah. No, everybody over there has a radio, they're listening to the BBC World Service and waiting for every piece of news about the Rwanda plan. It's right, great, that means we have 1 week to send these guys. It's not happening.
It's also whether Labour or the Conservatives were serious about smashing the gangs, they would do it by opening up safe and legal routes to claim asylum and just totally getting rid of the demand for it. That's the real solution.
That was the argument that was made about having a processing centre in Calais, right?
Yeah.
Was that? But then the argument that was made by the more right-wing commentariat was that actually that would be a pull factor for people to come to Calais, and it's no, because current asylum legislation means that you have to be in the country you want to claim asylum in before you can do that. And so if you created somewhere in Calais and as a proxy and said actually we're altering the legislation and you can go here, then that wouldn't work as a pull factor.
But also, am I misremembering that Priti Patel had put that in the works when she was the Home Secretary?
Patel had been speaking, Macron had been talking about it with Patel, or there had been some sort of conversation and it was vetoed. Because what ended up happening was they actually did it for Ukrainians. So they actually did do the proxy for them, and then they didn't do it for any other asylum seeker. We went to Calais right at that time, and there was a real two-tier system of, this is not me denigrating the Ukrainians and saying that they don't deserve it, because that's not what I'm saying at all. But there was, Ukrainians would get to Calais and they would be put up in a hotel and they would be directed towards these processing centres. And at the same time, you've got migrant detention centres where Mickey Mouse was being painted over because it was too friendly for the children.
Robert Jenrick. Yeah.
Big fan of his work.
But it was also, I remember at the time, it was so hypocritical how you're talking like, what, a month after the war, and it became a news story that Ukrainians were in Calais, like they had traveled from Ukraine to Calais. And the commentariat and the public that quite like the idea of getting rid of everybody in Calais and sending them back to where they came from. Those people, for the first time, saw the barbarity of what the system of allowing people to stay in Calais and crossing the Channel, and rather than having a safe and legal route in the country that they originate in, that it happened so quickly that there was a scheme in place for Ukrainians to be able to come to the country. It was just shocking at how hypocritical it was that this has been a problem for years upon years upon years. And then the 1 week that you see Ukrainians there, again, not minimizing the experience of Ukrainians whatsoever, but spending 1 week, or it being a news story for 1 week, and then like that, it's alleviated in some way.
Yeah. The lack of urgency to resolve. Yes. It's the people that are escaping conflict, if they are running from Afghanistan or Syria, and they're also escaping conflict if they've left Ukraine.
Exactly.
But it's just the small boat crossings, it's a government choice. It's like a manufactured thing that we've made people cross the Channel in small boats, because saying that you have to be in the UK to claim asylum, but the only way to get here to claim asylum if you're not from Ukraine or Afghanistan is to cross in a small boat or to enter the country illegally. It's a completely manufactured crisis.
Yeah, and another, on that point, something that Cleverly wrote in his piece the other day really grated me. He said that Labour had actually allowed all of the people that the Conservatives had banned, they'd now actually just processed them and allowed them into the country, and it's all done and dusted now, right? Totally just not true. The Conservatives had brought in a piece of legislation that meant if you crossed the Channel, you could not claim asylum. Your application could not be processed in the UK. But there wasn't a mechanism to deport those people. So it meant that those asylum seekers would just have been left to essentially rot in processing centres for nearly a year, because their claims cannot be processed because of this change in legislation. So actually, all Labour have done is identified that is a totally mental way to be operating, and they have rectified the problem. But yeah, again, it's a totally disingenuous piece from him all over. Anyway, how are we doing? Should we just put a couple of bets on?
Couple of
bets on?
Yeah,
who we
let's
think?
have a fluffer.
Who do you reckon, Laura? Who's your favourite and why?
As in, who do I think will win, or who do I like the most?
Who do you think? I think, yeah.
I like all of them. I hope they have a great time.
Who do you think? I tell you what, let's not go for the. You can have two tiers to this. Who do you think will be popular with Conservative MPs, and then who do you think will be popular with the membership?
I think Tom Tugendhat will be popular amongst a certain sect of the Conservative Party, and also possibly with the Parliamentary Party. But I don't know why, like, I think James Cleverly, it's going to be him, because I think he can appeal, he kind of, like, on your list, he straddles the line between One Nation and right wing. So and I think that's the smartest game to play.
He's all things to all people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where are you sitting?
I think it's going to be Cleverly. No, sorry. The question was most popular with MPs, most popular with the membership. Most popular with MPs is Cleverly. I think most popular with membership, I think, is going to be Priti Patel. But I'm leaning more towards a clean sweep for Cleverly.
Yeah, I think with MPs, I think we're going Tugendhat or Cleverly. I think with the membership, I was looking at some absolute nonsense that Patel was retweeting the other day, some gender critical nonsense. And I was thinking, membership is Patel.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the membership as well, and it's mainly over 50 and like 80% from the top social class and income bracket, that makes a big difference as well.
Nice one. All right, fellas.
Stick a pin in it.
We'll stick a pin in that.
Yeah.
She's done.
Well cooked.
Oh, I just want to... Okay, yeah. Well, join us. Join us on the subreddit.
Yes, please join us.
Join us on the subreddit. Like and comment.
Subscribe.
Post your dislikes if you hated Laura's content
Riot
while we were
coverage.
away. And also, I just want to say congratulations to an avid listener to this podcast who's getting married this weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
congrats.
Leave it there, yeah.
Well done.
Anyway, right,
Great
fellas,
work.
wrap it up. See you later.
Bye.